Hey everybody, thank you for being here. Welcome to our Sunday noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern live stream. Again, I appreciate everybody showing up for these weekly live streams. I love reaching out to the community and really talking about what we talk about in the videos during the week, some of the videos coming up, and doing some question and answer stuff. So we're gonna get right to it because today is gonna be a really fun video. I'm covering the 3 challenges that every successful person needs to overcome, and these are going to be some real base building blocks to what you need to do to develop that millionaire mindset. But first we're going to do some community shout outs like we always do, just reaching out to the community, saying thank you for some of your comments on the videos throughout the week, answering your questions for the videos throughout the week, and really just making that connection, that relationship through the channel here. Then we're going to highlight a few of the videos that we had last week and a few that are coming up this week. Some really great videos coming up this week that I think are really going to move the needle on creating that financial future, because we've got a couple of them that are, well, actually a series that is going to show you how to use one of my favorite income sources. This income source is probably about a third of my monthly income, so a little over $10,000 a month. So about $3,500 to $5,000 a month, depending on the month on this income source. I'm going to show you how to use those and how to get started on that. And then we're going to get right into today's topic: the 3 challenges that every successful person needs to overcome. And these maybe aren't necessarily challenges, but really three keys to manifesting that abundance in your life. We talk about a lot of millionaire habits and traits, and you see these all over the internet. But I think of all of those, these are really the 3 that you need to start with, because these are the 3 building blocks, the 3 basic elements that unless you have these covered, unless you start with these, all those other millionaire habits, all the traits you hear about, everything else, it just isn't going to work. So you really need to develop these 3 cores first. And then, of course, finally we'll hit into some question and answer and kind of get that back and forth going. So I see a few people coming into the live stream. It's a little bit later this week, I think, but we're trying to do these every week at 1 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Got a little turned around there. Again, I appreciate everybody coming out and watching the live stream and joining us. This is really just my chance to get to know you better and talk back and forth and really answer your questions on the live streams, rather than just that kind of one-way thing with the videos and the comments and that kind of thing. So we're going to look at a few comments first, and this first one is from Billy Bob, actually, and he wanted to know, wanting to recommend someone with 5,000 cash position, 30 years to invest in the market. Would you suggest buying now, or buying and holding, or waiting until after a market dips? And this is a question we get a lot on the channel, especially now that the market's been rising for 10 plus years, probably the longest bull market in history, but it's looking a little shaky. There's the economy. This is actually going to be an earnings recession, or close to an earnings recession, and basically what that means is just the stocks in the S&P 500 did not grow their earnings, their profits, compared to the same quarter last year, which is obviously a very big thing. The stock prices are based on earnings. That's your ownership of those future earnings. So if earnings aren't growing, then what are you paying for? So just as recently as maybe about a week ago, they were expecting an earnings recession, the first in probably about 6 years, and a lot of companies, they managed to beat that. So it might be 1% earnings growth year over year, but that's still not great. So the market is definitely looking a little tired here, and Billy Bob's, he's got a good point. He's got a good question. But the thing is, especially for somebody with a 30-year time horizon, that is so extremely long that you really shouldn't get caught up too much in even the year-to-year changes or the cycle-to-cycle changes. With 30 years in the market, or 30 years left to invest, you're going to have 5, 6 at least stock market bounces and crashes and dips and that kind of thing. So one in particular really isn't going to matter that much. So what I'd suggest a lot of times is to not stray too far from your target percentages that you want in stocks, bonds, and real estate. And what that means is just according to according to your age and your goals at retirement and your risk tolerance, how much you can stand those ups and downs of the market, then you should have a certain percentage in stocks, a certain percentage of your money in bonds, and a certain percentage in real estate through either direct rental properties or REITs, that's real estate investment trusts, or some other alternative kinds of real estate investments. And you really don't need to go too far off of these, even if you expect a stock market crash, okay? Because nobody can really time these perfectly, even up to the year. What you can do though is make sure that you're rebalanced back to those amounts. So after 10 years of just booming stock prices, most likely your stock portion of your portfolio is going to be way more than you wanted. So say you're a younger investor, 20s, maybe even early 30s, and you want somewhere within around 65 to 70% of your money in stocks, maybe 25% or so in real estate, and the rest in bonds. Well, what happens is after a 10-year bull market, then your stock portfolio is probably upwards of 80% or even 85% of your portfolio, because stocks have grown so much faster than bonds or maybe even that real estate position. So what you can do is you can sell off some of those stocks to rebalance back into bonds and real estate, bring those percentages back up, and that's going to bring your stock percentage back down. Conversely, if you don't want to sell the stocks, then you can just be investing your new money in bonds and real estate instead of stocks. So basically, you're just putting new investments in these other two assets rather than investing more in these higher stock prices. So that's going to save you when a stock market crash does come, because it always comes. Yeah, I'm amazed at people. They always try to tell you that this time is different and it's a new stock market, a new era, that we're not going to have stock market crashes or something like that. And stock market crashes always come. It's just the nature of a human-driven, emotion-driven stock market, that you're going to see these huge highs and then you're going to see the crashing lows. But when that does come, then you don't have to worry about it quite as much, because if you've got that 25% in real estate and 15% in bonds or so, that's going to level off your investments. So obviously that 50% crash in stocks isn't going to hurt as much. And then of course, when we do hit the bottom in that stock market, then you can take advantage of those lower prices. You can buy into, you sell off some of your bonds for that cash and buy back into stocks at lower prices. So it's really a great situation, and one where you really don't have to worry about a stock market crash. You can, you've got that confidence to know that your money is invested where it needs to be, and that you're able to take advantage of those opportunities when the stocks do come down. Our next question here is going to be from Greg, and Greg, always has great questions. He was here last week in the live stream. Always great input from him, and he wanted to know what key factors, qualitative or quantitative, would you look for to distinguish between maybe a turnaround stock and a falling knife situation. And that's another great question. Something that we've covered a lot, and actually something that's been pretty important this last year, because a lot of those stocks in our 2019 dividend stock challenge have been falling for at least a year, sometimes more. Especially like this Haynes brand position that we have in that portfolio, that's now up about 60% over the last 4 months. But it had been falling for quite a while. So what Greg is talking about here is whenever you're looking at stocks that have fallen a lot, then there's an idea that maybe they're a falling knife, right? Everybody wants to jump in, get them at their bottom, and watch them rebound. But what if it's that falling knife that's going to cut you trying to catch it on the way down? And that happens. I saw it happen a few years ago with coal stocks, in particular. Regulation was beating down the coal industry. The companies were finding a hard time to make money against cheaper natural gas, And but there was still that demand for coal stocks, so everybody was rushing in to catch these as the stock prices came down, and ultimately a lot of those companies just went bust. They never did rebound. And so for a lot of investors, they just chased them down to the bottom. And you get something called, a lot of people like to invest for dollar cost averaging, which is basically, you keep buying as the stock comes down, as the price comes down. So basically, if you're putting in $500 each time you buy, then that $500 is buying more shares each time. Of course, what happens though is, you start building up a bigger position in this stock. It might be 2 or 3% of your overall portfolio at first, but if you keep buying in, thinking that, okay, well, all I got to do is keep buying in. Once it bottoms, then it'll start coming back up, and that'll make a lot of these positions profitable. Even if it never comes back up to that very top point where you first invested, then if you keep it investing down towards the bottom, then that's going to average out your price to a lower price point. Well, of course, the problem is you keep putting more money into this stock, and it becomes 20 or 25, 30% of your portfolio. And what happens when that never comes back? With those coal stocks that go bankrupt, or with those companies that just kind of go nowhere for years and years. So it can destroy a lot of your wealth and lead to a lot of frustration. So it's a great question about, how do you avoid those falling knife situations? And a lot of times what I'll look at is the biggest thing is always debt. That's the number one reason why companies go bust. And a lot of times it's after they've acquired a lot of companies. They've gone years through that acquisition growth model, where their sales, their revenues aren't quite growing to where they'd like them to be. So basically, they're just putting on as much, or they're buying as many companies, right? So they're buying that growth. Well, they have to finance it with debt. So what happens is that they put on so much debt that when the sales for these new companies that they bought don't pan out like they thought, then they start having troubles paying back this debt. We've seen it with Teva, we've seen it with GE, we've seen it with a lot of these companies that were once huge brands, huge companies, but they just got too greedy with their debt. So you always need to look first at debt of any company that you're going to buy, regardless of whether it's a value stock or not. But especially if it's a value stock, if it's a stock this price has been falling, they're in trouble. That's the first place you need to go, is look at their debt, make sure that it's still manageable. And in this, you go to like the income statement, where it says how much in debt payments, how much in interest payments they're paying. Make sure that that's pretty well covered by their cash flow from the cash flow statement, as well as their operating income, which is just their income on that income statement after their operating expenses. So make sure that they're able to pay off that debt each quarter, or pay off the interest each quarter. You also want to look at and I mean, a lot of this gets really deep into the financials and into financial statement analysis, but that's really what you have to do to be a better investor. You can throw a dart at any stock on a dartboard and hit something, but to be a really good investor, you need to know these tricks and these analysis techniques to really find the stocks that a lot of investors maybe have abandoned, but are still good deals. And you do that by looking into the financial statements and seeing what's going on. So yeah, you can look into the financial statements and see when the debt is coming due. So a lot of companies, they'll refinance debt each time it comes due. But if their stock price has been falling, if they're getting into financial trouble, those rates are going to go way up. So sometime maybe 6 months or a year before that big spike in debt is due, then they're going to start getting in trouble, because now they're going to have to refinance at a much higher rate. That's going to mean that interest expense is going up, and they might have trouble now paying off that debt, or paying off that interest every quarter. So debt is hugely important. Cash flow is another one that's very important. And so for that, of course, you go to the statement of cash flows, and any of these with any company you go to, you do a Google search for the company's name and then investor relations. And that'll take you straight to their investor relations page where you can find all of their financial statements and that kind of thing, and just look through some of those numbers. But with the statement of cash flow, it's probably the most important financial statement you'll find from a company. And we've talked about this on the channel, on the live streams actually, quite a bit, where cash flow is much more difficult to fudge the numbers. Companies have tons of accounting tricks as far as fudging the numbers on their income, but they can't do that for cash flow. So you want to make sure that their operational cash flow is growing, and their free cash flow, and a lot of things like that. And then you can just look at some general valuations. I prefer the one valuation a lot of people don't use, but it's really important, is the enterprise to revenue valuation, or the multiple. So that's enterprise, that's EV to revenue, right? And what the enterprise value is, it's just the really the worth, the net worth of the company, right? Because it's their market cap, so it's what investors are paying for. That's the market cap is just all the shares times the share price, right? So that's the total market value of the company, and it's minus cash, any cash they have on the balance sheet, but then adding back all the debt, right? Because anybody that acquires that company or buys that company, or that company's worth has to include that debt that they owe, because somebody's going to have to pay back that debt. So it's that market cap minus the cash, because that's an asset that they have, and then plus the plus all the debt that they owe. That's the enterprise value. And if you take that divided by revenue, it just gives you a really good kind of an acquisition value of the company. I use this a lot, and a lot of people use this in venture capital. When you're talking about the acquisition value of a company, buying companies, how much is it worth to another company, and stuff like that. Because ultimately, a lot of these companies that do get in trouble, they become buyout targets, takeover targets. So one of the best valuation techniques to use is seeing, okay, how much is that company worth as a buyout target, and how does that compare with other companies to find good solid deals. And then, of course, you always want to look at some qualitative things like their brand, their position in the market. If they still have a very strong and stable brand with consumers and position in the market. This is something that I looked at Hanes brand when we invested in that 2019 dividend stock challenge, where the stock had been falling for years even. Had great valuation, was really cheap on a metric like that. But then, they still had, Hanes. It's still a great brand. They still had a lot of market share among competitors. So, even if it didn't bounce back that 60% like it did just now, then this month, these last 4 months, up 60%. Even if it didn't do that, I had the confidence that this was a solid company with excellent brand strength, excellent market share in its core markets. And the debt wasn't a problem, so it would eventually rebound. So even if it's not something that that paid off immediately. Our third comment here is from Rebecca, the Squintillions channel. Actually, let's see if I can get that up there. Okay, and Rebecca's just been she's been commenting on quite a few videos. Great member of the community. Talking about a survey of the blogging income that we did recently, and this is really just a survey of 150 bloggers that I talked to, and what income sources they're using, as well as which ones are most profitable. So we've shared a lot of those ideas on how to build a blog, how to grow a blog from scratch, and some of the income sources that you need to be looking at. I think a lot of bloggers, or a lot of people, they get started on blogging, and they think it's they think it's basically just about ads. You just do what you do, writing, posting articles. Google puts ads on your site, and you make money like that, and that's all there is to it. And that's so far from the truth, because the fact is that ads just don't pay much. You can have actually a very large blog and still not make money from ads. So basically, you need to be finding these other blogging income sources, and how to actually develop a blog as a business to really watch it grow. So I appreciate that. That's going to be it for the comments here. So we'll come back to this. And now, before we get to those three challenges that every successful person needs to overcome, those three hurdles and those core tenets that you need. I wanted to talk about some of the videos we had last week and the ones coming up. Just got done with our 4 video series on the Avengers investing. Loved doing the series, a lot of fun looking into kind of the personal lives, I guess, of the Avengers and how might they invest their money. Didn't do as well on the channel as I thought it would. Not a lot of views on those. Still appreciate everybody that watched those videos and commented on those. If you haven't seen the videos, there's some great basic ideas on investing, on how to invest better, some different companies and ways to look at stocks. So check those out. But also, I need your help in what kind of videos you want to see. If there's videos that even if you see a video coming out, on your home feed or whatever that you're not particularly interested in, click through and tell me in the comments. Tell me why you really weren't interested in this video and what videos you want to see, because that's really going to change our content here on the channel. I want to make videos that are going to help you, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to really share what I've learned in making money and investing over the years, and I want to put out the kind of content that you're going to be interested in and you're going to watch. So always think about telling me what videos you want to see on the channel, and like I said, even videos that you're not particularly interested in, tell me why. Click through to the video and say, hey, I wasn't going to click on this video, but I wanted to tell you what I actually wanted to see. This next week, we've actually got a 2-part affiliate marketing series, and like I was saying, that affiliate marketing idea, probably about 1/3 of my monthly income, and it's a huge source of income for anyone online, for bloggers, for social media influencers, anyone wanting to create that online business and that monthly income. You've got to be looking at affiliate marketing. So I've got a 2 video series coming up on how much you can make, what it means, how to get started, and really the secrets that I've learned to really make a little bit more money in that. It's one of those ideas that I think there's a lot of misconceptions about affiliate marketing, where a lot of people think that basically you can just grab a link from a company, put it into a blog post, and you'll make thousands of dollars a month. And that's just not so. People are just trained to ignore these kinds of commercials and these kinds of links and stuff like that. So really, you have to guide people through kind of a decision-making process, and that's a system that I've created, a funnel system to do that. That has meant all the difference in making money. So that's coming up this week. Please, check that out and let me know what you think in the comments to the videos. And I always reply to comments and things like that. So now I wanted to get to this week's topic, and this is really, like I said, those 3 challenges, those basic traits or characteristics that everyone needs to be aware of, needs to be watching for. Okay, and the idea here isn't that you have to be perfect in these 3 ideas. I'm not perfect. I haven't gotten to where I can overcome all 3 of these challenges, but just being aware of them, knowing what's going on when they do happen, is going to mean so much for your success. Like I said, all the millionaire habits and the traits and the characteristics that we see about millionaires, none of them will mean anything unless you can overcome these 3 challenges, these 3 hurdles. Okay, so and the first one we're going to talk about is the imposter syndrome, and this is a pretty popular one, fairly well known, and it just means that you're afraid that you're not qualified to be talking about something. And if you do talk about it, then people are going to find you out and call you a fraud, right? They're going to call you a charlatan or a fraud for trying to act like an expert in something. And in this, I love this graphic, this ugly ballerina graphic, because it's so true. We all feel like that ugly ballerina sometimes. We feel like we're trying to do this, we're trying to be an expert or putting ourselves out in front of people. But they're going to see through us, right? They're going to see us for the ugly ballerina they are, and they're going to laugh at us or whatnot, or call us a scam. And you just got to understand that everybody gets these voices. Even the most successful people, the people that you think have broken that code to success, and everything they touch is $1 billion idea or whatever. They still feel this imposter syndrome. They still feel like they wake up sometimes and they go, who the hell am I to be talking about this? There's somebody more qualified out there, and there's somebody that knows more about it. That could be talking about this, and if I try to be an expert in it, then people are going to say, well, who the hell are you? And it's a huge thing to get over, and it's tough because we have these little voices in our heads that tell us that we're not good enough. Whenever I talk about the imposter syndrome, I always flash back to that Simpsons episode with Troy McClure, where he's talking about, hey, I'm Troy McClure. You may recognize me in other self-help videos as "Get confident, stupid." But it's so true that this is a matter of confidence. It's a matter of knowing that you are an expert in this, that your experience has value, and that you've done what you need to do to really create value for someone else. You are not an imposter, actually. So it really goes, like I said, it really goes back to having that confidence and building that confidence in yourself, and in yourself in this particular area as well. And I could share. Look at this. Me as a kid, me next to my cousin, and no, I'm not the big one. That's my cousin. He's a monster. Always good in sports and right. I, on the other hand, short for my age, all the way up to now, and really always lacked that confidence that you can build through being successful in sports or being tall enough or whatever. So a lot of times it was very hard for me to build that confidence and to grow up as a confident person. But what I learned, and this was part and due to in the Marine Corps, being successful there, and part in my own online businesses that I've created. What I learned is that it's the little wins. It's building confidence is a matter of planning on building confidence, really. What you have to do is you devote yourself to something that you can be an expert in, and a lot of these are setting little goals, little wins for yourself. So it might not necessarily be, being the best blogger of anyone, or having the best fitness site, or the best YouTube channel of anyone. You set smaller goals. You set goals of reaching 1,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. Or you set goals of helping one or two particular people with a question or something. And what happens is when you beat these little goals that you set for yourself, then that slowly develops that confidence in you. You've created that opportunity to achieve these goals, know that you can achieve these goals, and it's just a knock-on effect. You keep setting goals, you keep achieving them, you keep beating them, and this doesn't mean that you don't have to work. You do have to do the research in those things. You have to develop yourself, self-development, and things like that. But eventually, you have created and achieved so many of these little goals that confidence in that one little area. So you become a voice in that particular area. So maybe like a fitness website or your YouTube channel or whatever. You've created so much success by beating those goals in that one little particular area that it's an amazing thing. It bleeds over into your personal life, into the rest of your life. You have that confidence in that one particular area, and that starts becoming confidence overall in your own self, in your own self-worth and your worth as a person. So it's an amazing transformation that you really won't even realize it's happening until it's already happened, and then you'll look back and go, oh well, shit, I'm kind of a big deal. I'm pretty cool, And it's all through creating those little goals in that one particular area, things that you can become an expert in, and then using those goals to help develop the confidence and achieving those goals, to be a better person. Success breeds success. That's really what we're talking about here. So find those little goals, that one little tiny niche that you can develop in yourself and become an expert in, and that's gonna come over into a lot of those other parts. So that's the imposter syndrome. That's how you beat it. understand, again, you never fully beat it. There's always going to be those little voices that say, hey, am I really the person to be talking about this? Am I an expert? Are people going to make fun of me if I try to say I'm an expert? Things like that. But understanding that that's what's happening, that those little voices are just, they're natural, something that happens to everyone. It's just something you have to deal with, and you do that through that building that self-confidence. So that's the first one. The second one here is just comparing yourself to others, and this is another one that we all do. Even the most successful, they continue to do it a lot of times, but it's really kind of cancerous. It's really something that you're always going to be disappointed. It's going to eat you up inside, and it's really only leads to jealousy and feelings of inadequacy and hatred, right? Because and I can tell you when this happens, when this is worst is when you are trying to become an expert in one particular area. You're trying to build that confidence in that area and stuff, and you've been working hard. You've been working hard for a year or so, and then all of a sudden you see someone just start, and boom, they're like an overnight sensation, and it's like, what the hell? Who is the worst part is when those voices in your head, you're saying, well, that's because all these other people are helping them and nobody is helping me. And that's just that feeling of jealousy and alienation that you get, that really starts weighing on you, because you're like, okay, what's wrong with me? Why aren't everybody helping me? This is unfair. And ultimately, a lot of people just give up. They give up in frustration because they're comparing themselves to someone else. And look, there's always going to be superstars. There's always going to be people that they just seem to come on the scene and are in an instant success in something. And whether it's, they've got connections, or whether it's just by luck or even hard work, then that's just how it is. A lot of times I think when we compare ourselves to others, we look at their success and think it's something external to them. And there's some research behind this that we attribute other people's success to external things, like either luck or somebody helped them, and we attribute our own success to internal things. So like, we worked for it. I did this to make the success, whereas someone else, they're just getting everything given to them. Okay, it's just kind of a mind game that our brains play on us when we're looking at comparing things. And so obviously, if we're thinking that someone else is getting all this success that they haven't really worked for, then what the hell am I working for if I'm not going to be as successful as them, and I'm not getting that help from outside? So really, comparing yourself to others, it's great to be competitive, and it's great to set your goals based on what other people are achieving and what other people are doing. But you've really got to be careful with this, because like I said, it can just lead to jealousy and inadequacy and that hatred that just eats you up inside and consumes you all the time. What you really need to be doing is comparing yourself to yourself. Okay. And this takes some planning. This takes writing out, okay, where you are right now in those goals, whether it be, how much traffic you have on your website or your YouTube channel, or how much money you're making every month, or even like, if you've got some physical goals, if you're trying to lose weight or gain muscle or something like that, you need to know where you're at right now and write that down, because a lot of times we tend to not understand really, or not remember right where we were before. And then of course, you're just going to compare your progress against that. So there's no, you don't want to totally avoid comparing yourself to something, because that's that marks that growth that you need to be successful. But what you can do is compare yourself to yourself. Those writings that you had. Okay, where was I at this point a year ago? And see that progress, or conversely see that lack of progress. It's obviously that if you're not working hard enough, it's going to show up in those numbers, and that's the motivation, that's the boost that you need to set higher goals and to actually work harder to reach those goals. So that's really our second habit here is stop comparing yourself to others. You start comparing yourself to yourself. And you'll not only be more successful, but you'll be happier for it as well. And then our third challenge, hurdle here, if you will, is just to get started. And this is something that you hear everywhere. You're probably thinking, okay, that's not a challenge, that's not a trait, that's not a hurdle. It's just getting started. Well, but how often do people actually get started? It's you hear it all the time. You make plans. You're like, oh, I really want to start a blog, or I really want to start an Amazon FBA or affiliate marketing, or I want to start doing this or start dieting, right? But I'll do it, next week, or I've still got some other things I want to take care of. Well, that next week never comes. How many people get started or think about getting started on a diet or some other goal, and then they never get started. So, you go back to that quote by Wayne Gretzky that says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I think so many people out there just miss so many shots because they don't take them. So, what I want you to do after this video, after you watch this video, is just write down 3 goals. Write down 3 things that you want to get started on, 3 things that you want to achieve. And okay, so give yourself a week. Give yourself a week to plan and learn what you need to do to achieve those goals, and what you need to do to start this. But then that's a hard deadline. 1 week from today, 1 week from writing down those goals, whether you think you're ready or not, whether you think you have some other things you want to take care of before you start, you get started. You just get it out there. You start. And even if you don't think you're completely ready yet, just get started, because I guarantee you that's 90% of it is just hitting that enter button and getting things started. You'll learn as you go. Even if you feel like you're not quite ready yet, you'll learn as you go. Nobody starts a business fully ready, okay? And nobody starts a business at a point where they don't need to learn anything else. Okay, if they do feel like they don't need to learn anything else, then that business is quickly a failure. It quickly becomes obsolete against the competition. So, don't think that you have to be completely 100% ready to start something, to start that diet, to start that business, to start paying down your debt, whatever it may be. You just need to get started. And then you're going to learn. You're going to make some mistakes, and that's fine. But you're going to learn from those mistakes. You're going to gradually progress in that goal, and you're finally going to achieve it. So that's probably one of the most important habits of the 3, I think, because of course, without getting started, then none of this other stuff matters. If you never start, then it doesn't matter if you if you can beat that imposter syndrome, or if you're comparing yourself to make those goals and that progress, because you just never started. So those are really the 3 habits that you need to develop. And I'd like to send it over to Q&A, but frankly, I don't know if this live stream was going through very well, because we've had all of 1 person watching the whole time. So I'm gonna have to check to make sure that this was going through, because usually we have about 80 or 90 people watching the live stream. So I think that we might have had some technical difficulties. It didn't look like we were, because we did have that 1 person watching, but I will have to check that out. And I'm always here to answer your questions. If you are out there watching and I'm just not seeing the questions or anything, then wait for the video to be processed and go on YouTube. It usually takes about an hour. Ask your questions there, and I will get right to them. I always get back to the comments on the videos. Watch for those affiliate marketing videos coming up this week. Some great ideas in creating a monthly income. Like I said, it's about 1/3 of my income every month, this affiliate marketing income source. And I've got some great videos coming to you for how to develop that and how to be more successful. Until then, we are here every week Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for these live streams. I hope to see you here next week. And so until next week, thanks for watching.